Hey guys! Oh.
I feel like I was like about to be like, oh, I'm gonna be so giddy when you say this,
Okay.
and we're in this new place.
Okay, ready? Hey guys! Welcome to The Council. It's your girl Cosette.
Lexi
And Rachel.
And this is a huge moment. And I think that you can tell why. We have recorded 22 episodes of The Council now, and here we are at the Spotify headquarters recording our next few episodes.
We're doing a video.
This is literally insane.
This is what we look like.
We
by
heard-
the way.
We heard the people. This is what they wanted, and now they have us. The three
Yeah.
blondes are here.
The three blondes are here.
Choking on my coffee.
I feel like a lot of people have only listened, and they may like follow us on social media, but it's hard to connect the faces to the names.
Yeah.
So maybe this will help provide a little bit of context, and they're like, "Oh my god, I didn't know that that one sounded like."
Oh, that's who that is, and that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope I shock some people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who the
Oh.
voice with that face.
Exactly.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Shocking them with our words first and our face second.
We're like we were hiding our identity.
We were.
But I want to just like be sappy for a moment.
Please be sappy, 'cause that's
Please.
all what we're thinking.
The floor is yours.
You know, I feel like we all connected at different stages of our lives. I mean, also we're all different ages, and I feel like we're all going through such different things, but we're able to find a common ground, and we really leaned on each other in really important, like seriously detrimental moments of our life. And
Yep.
I'm just so grateful for our friendship, and we had this idea to create a podcast, and we were like, I don't know if we'll ever actually do it, but we did it. We've done 22 episodes.
I swear, we talked about this podcast maybe a year, or the full
That's-
duration of how long I've known Rachel.
Yeah.
And when we came together, we've been talking about this podcast, and then we finally made it happen.
Yeah.
And now we're here doing a vlog style, and this is just amazing.
The podcast happened because like every week we would come together and, you know, have girl talk, chit chat, and we'd always be like, what we're spitting is like liquid gold, and we need to share this, and we were like, we should start a podcast. We should start
Yeah.
a podcast, and now we're making it happen.
What-
22 episodes in.
It's hilarious, though, because even now with this platform, our podcast, the amount of back talk and therapy that we have outside of our podcast
Mhm.
sessions, and we're like, you know what, this is our take on this situation, this is what we're thinking. We have hours and hours.
Hours.
We can make 20 documentaries at this point
Yeah.
of all the information we have, but this is a really great space for us to.
It's got a little sexy in here.
yeah. right?
I also want to notate that I think a lot of people, when they have a goal, they're waiting for the right moment. I have an alarm that goes off every hour on my watch now, so that's gonna be
Perfect.
happening.
That'll keep us on track.
But yeah, I just think a lot of people are waiting for them to have like the most expensive equipment, for them to be in the right setup, and there will never.
How did we start?
There
our
will never be a
podcast?
right moment. Like up until now, we've been recording with my voice memo iPhone sitting in the middle of my kitchen island with a lot of chips, dip, and wine surrounding us. And this is a completely different setup, which is why I think it's gonna like take us a little bit to get used to this. But
We're getting comfy.
We got
there.
the AC
Yeah.
in the background. We got crickets in the,
yeah,
in the walls.
yeah, it's
And now we
been
have
a
silence.
DIY setup. So this is really cool.
I'm so excited.
And
Let's get
so
into it.
let's just get into
Let's
our
get into it.
topic. Today we're gonna be talking about your guide to mourning a breakup.
Ugh.
Something
brings
we're
up
all very familiar
feelings.
with.
Yeah.
Everyone should. I think it is so important to go through heartache and a
Mhm.
breakup, because going through that kind of pain acknowledges that we felt something for the relationship, but also teaches us how we can move forward with the love that we have and what kind of love we deserve and want. And I think in the way mourning a breakup means that, I don't know, you're stronger. You know, when you get to that point where you're like, dang, that sucked. You know,
Yeah.
when we talk about breakups in this
Mhm.
group and anywhere else, we're like, that was so painful. He did this, they did that, she did that. And then you're like, I made it through. With time, you're like, I made
Yeah.
it through that.
Time heals all wounds.
Yep.
And like, I mean, you can think about like a burn, and how a burn hurts so much while it's healing.
Is
but
this a song?
This is a song lyric.
I knew it.
This is a song lyric. But yeah, just that sometimes when we're in the thick of it, it's so hard to realize and remind yourself that it's going to be okay. I know I've definitely been in a situation where I'm like, I'm never going to heal from this, but we
Oh,
do.
yeah.
And then
We
when
do.
someone tells you while you're in the thick of it, like, it's going to get better, it's hard to believe.
I hate those words too. And I've used them. I've used them to friends going through it now and before. it's going to get better. Time makes it better. And when you're there, it's the last thing you want to hear from anyone. You're like, thank you. I know time makes it better. But when you're on the other side of it and you're Mary Poppins and you're like, yay, I'm happy again.
Yeah.
All you want to do is reassure someone that they're going to get through.
Uh-huh.
What can we do to make this better for you? And that's what we're here. This is what this episode's for.
And I also want to quickly address the elephant in the room. We have gavels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I forgot to
Waving
mention
it
this in
around.
the intro, but when we first got together as best friends, we would pose advice and talk to each other, and we would use these gavels as a way to veto and like vote for certain decisions. Like, should I text him? No. And so
Will they listen to us? No.
Yeah, that's why we called ourselves the council, and that was a big part of our whole
Yeah.
journey as friends before we even thought of the podcast. And we wanted to include these in the podcast, but they would be too loud. So now we're bringing them back since we're visual, and if you have a point, we raise it, and we can also use our legs if we want to like echo any points. But I want to pose a question to the group, and that is, what is the first thing that you do when you are going through a breakup? Like, let's say you are on the receiving end. Well, actually, it's sad either way. You just went through a breakup. What is the first thing that you do to try to pick yourself up? Lexi's like smirking.
I
over
delete
there.
everything.
Really?
I'm a get rid of any signs of this person. And while I'm doing that, I'm looking at everything. So it's not that I'm just blanket. I'm reminiscing, I'm crying.
Mhm.
But I go through my social media and delete things. I go through my albums and delete everything because I think it helps me not stay in that reminiscent phase, because it's easy to look at the good times and look back at the positive instead of the cons. And for me, it helps to just say like, nope, fresh, clean slate. We're done with that chapter and let's move on. And also, let's be real, it's always on an iCloud somewhere. So if you go to your computer or
true.
somewhere, I'll be like,
It'll pop up.
in like a year or two. I'll be like, oh yeah, oh that photo, that's crazy. And
So you
I
delete
haven't-
the photos?
I delete photos.
That's
I'm
crazy.
so
That's
quick to delete
crazy.
photos. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the first thing I do to help me just get back in like the next step to feeling like myself again.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how different things work for everyone, because I'm far too sentimental to delete photos.
I'm the same way. It's like those
Not
are
that you're not.
But I know, but what are you do? Do you just like to have that kind of trail of this was your history in
It's
life,
memories.
or what
to me.
is?
I think I also have a really bad memory, and so sometimes I
Uh-oh.
need that to remind myself of things that I did. Like, oh, I forgot I went on that trip.
yeah.
But it's not good to look at those in the moment. But I usually
Maybe
don't.
maybe put them. Maybe someone
In a hidden
should
folder
put them in a
somewhere.
hidden folder.
yeah,
or
it should
something.
definitely be
I
hidden.
see.
Like I don't feel like it should be on your cell
Okay.
phone. Like no.
If I go through another breakup, I'll put them in a separate folder.
And one day you can open it back up.
Hope,
Yeah.
Mr. Right. I hope we're not gonna break up. but
Yeah.
yeah.
What about
Aw.
you, Rachel?
After a breakup, probably overanalyze everything. If it
Alone?
was
This is
or
supposed
with-
to be like
or with
advice.
people.
oh, well, just to like reflect on the relationship and like,
Mhm.
oh, like did I do anything I could have improved on? Like where did it go wrong? And just analyze in a mature way and be like, okay, moving forward, like in my next relationship, this is what I could do in this situation, or this is how I could act, this is how I could respond, because all breakups and all relationships are a learning
lesson.
situation.
That's a great point.
Do you write things down, or is this a mental notes you're taking, or
You know what?
what's your analyst?
After
analytic
my
process?
most recent, yeah.
Words.
After my most recent breakup, I did start journaling a lot, and I loved it, like documenting all my feelings from happiness, jealousy, sadness, frustration. And it like helped me feel these emotions, and I liked it because it like documented my whole entire process. And like I journal online, and I've been doing this for the last 10 years, so I literally have like a 10-year journal of all my emotions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever open your journal to like old entries?
I love
and
doing
it's
that.
I've read from like one of my past relationships where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just saw his ex post with him and I feel sick to my stomach. I don't know how I'm gonna get over this feeling. And I look back and it just helps you realize how much you've grown and be like, oh, I wish I could go back and hug that Cosette,
Yeah.
because she was so down
And I
bad.
think that's what's great about journaling and seeing those feelings that felt so real and so big at that time. And then you can look back and you're like, we're at a different place. Baby Cosette, we're at a different place.
Yeah.
We're gonna get through it. And it's you almost want to hold them up and be like, see, people, like, I felt these things. It felt like the most monumental feeling that I ever felt in that moment. And now I'm here thinking, how did I ever feel that way? How did I ever feel that way about that person? Now we're at a different stage. And that's why I love journaling. And it was one of the things during research for this episode that they highlighted as a way to mourn the breakup and prevent yourself from reaching out to that ex and talking about those feelings. Because I think we've highlighted this before, because at least you have. The one person that is going through the same feeling as you is your ex. And it's hard not to reach out and say, I'm really struggling. I still love you. I want to see you. This hurts. Because those are real feelings. And you can't tell them. You can't reach out to them.
Can I talk about this phenomenon that
Please.
I've spoken about before? And it is the fact that when you're going through a horrible breakup, it feels like you went through a terrible car crash and you drove off a cliff and you almost died, and there's only one other person who was in that car, and you can't talk to that one person about it.
That is
because they say
true.
with the no contact rule, which we'll get into in a little bit, that you should really avoid all contact with your ex, and you should try not. Yeah,
I agree.
But to not have to reach out when they're the only one who fully knows, because then your friends are like, oh, but he treated you so poorly, but you don't know everything, like you don't know all the good things about the relationship.
It's like the Olivia Rodrigo song, right? Like,
which one?
She sings a line where all my friends tell me they're sick of hearing about you, but I'm sad for them because they don't know you the way that I do. And it's
something like that.
It's so true. It's your friends, they're supportive and they do see them through a different lens, but it's hard for your brain to not think of the negative and only think of like, but oh my God, that one time he smiled at me and we threw cake in each other's faces and it was like a Notebook scene.
Oh,
that's what our brains does. And we're like, oh my God, I miss him even more.
That sounds
now.
romantic.
No one else was there but that other person.
Yeah.
So Lexi, can you talk a little bit about the mourning process and these different stages of grief that we go through?
So the stages that I was able to find, and I think this was a really great summary of them, was the first one was depression. The second was anger. The third, bargaining, which we can talk about all of these. And then the fourth was depression. No. Sorry. I'm so sorry. The first is
Rewind.
The first is denial. Wrong D. The first is denial. The second is anger. The third is bargaining. The fourth is depression. And the fifth is acceptance. Because, I think, even talking with a friend, she was talking about how going through a recent breakup, she was saying, I'm either going through sadness right now or pretending that everything's good, everything's fine. And I think, it's so fresh that she's in that denial stage where I think our brain is trying to distract us with everything. Who are we reaching out to? Let's grab coffee with someone. Distracting ourselves because we're like, no, it's okay. Like, I didn't need them. I don't want them. We're just not thinking about it. And then, I think when we translate to anger and feeling that hurt, it's not the sadness yet. It's that, oh, they're trash anyways. I don't need them. I'm better without them. Oh, my friends, I'm going out again. I'm single. Woo! And we're kind of going through that breakup in that anger stage. And I think bargaining, reading about that stage, is we're trying to kind of understand what we lost to what we've gained. So, okay, I love the way that my partner did this, but I didn't love how they made me feel in this way. So look at what I'm going to get in my freedom or in my next partnership. So you're bargaining what you lost to like what you're gaining. And that's like kind of, I think, what you do, analyzing the relationship and thinking, okay, here are the cons, here are the pros of what I have now. And then of course depression, when you really sink into that sadness and you're letting go of someone and you realize that, that phenomenon of they're a stranger now to you. They were someone so big.
Lots of songs about that.
And now they're not there in that way anymore. You're just ripping a future that you imagine. I think that's also the hardest part of a breakup, is that future gone, that imagined future. And then of course acceptance, and you're your brilliant new version of yourself.
It's so crazy. It's making me think of, I think it's a Jeremy Zucker song about how you go from being lovers to strangers.
That's what I was just going to mention.
I used to know everything about you, but now I know nothing at all. And then there's another line where it's like, basically the concept that someone's deepest, darkest fears and their traumas, but you don't know what they ate for breakfast that morning. Like you start to
that one.
you start to realize that this person who you knew so deeply. I mean, let's think back on our exes.
Do we have to?
Do we have to?
Do we have to though?
But just think about how you like knew everything about this person, and you know everything about this person when it comes to like the deep fiber of their beings. But now on a day-to-day basis, why am I opening wounds?
You know what makes me so sad? It's like how you guys start as strangers and you end as strangers, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like you spend so much of your time and your life with this person just to never talk to them again, and it's like, that's crazy.
And we will talk in a future episode about whether it's possible to stay friends.
I know. I feel like
with
the way
ex.
this direction of the episode is going, we're all about to
We're
get
like,
our phones
are we-
out and be like, "How are you doing?"
No.
I know there was just
No,
a
not
sad,
gonna
there was
happen.
a sad lull there.
Not
that I was
gonna
like, No
happen.
one do that. There's no
Absolutely
contact
not.
rule for a reason.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we went through these different stages. What do you both feel is the most challenging stage for you to experience?
Well, in regards to stages, I feel like in regards to time, it could happen like separately. So, for example, if you are doing the breakup, Lexi, what were the first two stages?
Denial and then
Anger?
anger.
Denial and anger. So I feel like, if you're doing the breakup, I'm just speaking from my personal experience, there was denial. I was with someone for a long time. No, it couldn't be like that. And then, I was getting like more agitated and irritated in like daily situations, and we both were at each other. And then it was like denial, and then anger really, really came.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the next one?
Bargaining.
I feel like I was like, it's like, oh, it could go this way, but I want to make it work.
Could be worse.
It could be
or
worse,
Today
or it
was
could be
a good
better.
day,
Yeah.
or- yeah.
And then, the other steps after that. But if you're getting broken up with, definitely, I feel like it does start with that denial, then anger, bargaining, depression,
and
acceptance.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before too. If women do the initiating of
Yeah.
a breakup,
Let's talk about that.
yes, and they're leaving a breakup, it's often that they're already going through the stages of mourning. They've already gone through, like, I think like you said, where you've already done the denial, the sad, the anger. You had all those feelings, so by the time you're ending a relationship, they've done the
You
grieving.
felt
They're almost
it.
at acceptance.
You
Yeah.
begin the
Yeah.
grieving while you're still with that person,
Right.
which is kind of messed up, but it's true.
But I mean, there's a reason why so many people say women give you sign after sign after
Mhm.
sign, and when she stops telling you, that's when you should worry, because
She's
us
had
telling
enough.
you that something's wrong is us trying to keep the relationship together, and when we're done, you no
We're
longer get
done.
to hear those, and we're
Yeah.
like, well, we're
Yeah.
done. Like, you're gonna find
Uh-huh.
out soon.
Yeah.
And then men, I think this was a statistic we talked about, where in a 2015 study, it said that there was 5,700 people, and that women felt the high levels of emotional and physical pain, but that men felt pain for the longest period of time.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think
crazy.
maybe because we start that mourning process sooner when we're, I guess, initiating a breakup.
Yeah. And then
Another-
we're sure of our decision
Yeah,
because we're
exactly.
initiating it.
Another stat is, well, it's not a stat, but it's, I guess, more of a saying, and it's
Mhm.
that women experience the most amount of grief in the first 3 days, whereas the men will wait 3 months and then start to experience that grieving.
Interesting.
That's not a statistic, but it's
But
just
it's
something
a-
that I've heard, and I think it's because women allow themselves to process those feelings,
Yeah.
and they get it all
We
out.
lean
Like,
in. We
yeah,
really
exactly.
do.
And you have to, otherwise you're not. And then 3 months come down the line, and then the guy all of a sudden is like, "Oh shoot!" But you were so far gone, you're like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
I've
So
already
you
got
always
a
get
new
that
boo.
reach out text.
Yeah.
We know
They
the
always
one
come back.
where they always reach out, and
Mhm.
it's 3 months, 5 months, they still come around, and they're like, "How are you doing? I just want to say, like, I'm so sorry for this, and you're like,
Yep.
"Yeah, this is for you because
Yeah.
you know what you lost.
Uh-huh.
I did this at the beginning of the
Mhm.
relationship, so I'm good.
I-
I'm
and I-
healed."
And I feel like I've definitely seen that in like my past relationships. Like, if we are experiencing, that pain up front, I've seen like countless times in like months later, the guy, everyone's like, oh yeah, guys go out, they party, that woo, have fun. But like later, it actually hits them. They realize what
Yeah.
they actually lost.
Uh-huh. something that has helped me a lot in breakups that I think helps me, even though it feels so soon to be processing things like this. How am I going to say this? Anyway, I saw this tip on TikTok.
Just
and,
say it.
And
Yeah.
I've used it a lot. And it is coming up with an ick list immediately for that person.
I
I
love
think you
that.
guys know I have a long notes page in my notes
As
app.
you should.
Every time I will go through a breakup or an ex situationship or cut it off with someone, sometimes it's hard to accept that. And in those first few days, I'm like, I miss them so much. I want to see them. I want to text them. I want to have a conversation with them. And I will take out my notes app and I will create such a specific list of icks and get so mean with it. I will tear this person down.
Good.
That's for
The
you.
only
That's
person
good.
who's seeing it is me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember in this one past relationship that was probably the hardest breakup I ever went through. You're giving me, I think you know who I'm talking
I
about.
think I know too.
I
'cause
think
And
so.
I think
when
we
I
know.
was like first getting over it, I just thought this person was on a pedestal. I thought they were so perfect, and it was really hard to make an icks list because I didn't think this person had any icks. But then I start thinking about it, and then I start thinking about it more, and then
I
I start
know,
getting
the
really mean and
person.
really specific and really like down to the fact of like, you know, just mean. And it helped
remember
me
those-
And then
so-
she had a dictionary.
Yeah.
yeah, it helped me so much. And then when I would see that person, I would just think about those icks and I'd be like, ooh, how did I even ever see anything in
Yeah.
that person? And that is just something that I've realized helps me. And another thing is like, if you feel the need to reach out to them, take out a freaking pen and paper and write what you want to text them on a piece of paper. And I'm promise like the release will get it out. Do not send that
Yes,
text.
Yeah, put it
Oh,
out
I
in the
love that.
universe. Just
Yeah.
getting it down on paper or on text.
I put that on my notes. I always go to my notes app first, and
Mhm.
I'll type out. I mean, even now, I'll type out how I'm feeling in an emotional way, and even that release helps me process what it is that I'm really irritated or upset about, and allows me to, in my current relationship, go forth and be like, okay, I got my anger out.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the problem.
Yeah,
And when you're getting over
exactly.
someone, that is also so helpful because you're like, I don't want to give them that satisfaction. Also, I don't want to
Mhm.
reach out and
Ugh,
they're
they-
not
No,
gonna,
like,
they're
oh,
not gonna
she's
send a
reaching
message
back out to me.
Or exactly. So you're like, do everything in your power not to do that because you're gonna feel a lot better that you didn't send the message than
Mhm.
if you had, and then you're gonna get into either a conversation that's hours and what is that gonna do for you?
Yeah.
Or no
Or
response.
no response.
No
And
then
that's
you're
response.
just worse. And then you're wishing
so
that you never sent
either
it.
way, you don't want to be in that time suck and all the energy drained in that situation.
Uh-huh.
So I love that suggestion.
And speaking of avoiding sending that text, let's talk a little bit about the no contact rule and how important it is for healing. So, we've talked a lot about the whole no contact rule. I have a rule of thumb that I live by when
Let's
I'm
hear it.
mourning a breakup, and I've explained this to you guys, and it is the calendar rule, where you look at a calendar and you allow yourself these intervals between mourning this breakup and giving yourself permission to reach out. So maybe at first, for me, it was something that in one of my past breakups, something I really struggled with was checking their Instagram and like seeing their social media and what they were up to and watching their story. It wasn't as much like reaching out to them, but it was kind of monitoring their social media.
What they're doing.
Yeah, and like watching their story. I was just checking their tag
Any
photos.
new people they're following.
I was
like
I was
everything.
addicted to it. And I created this rule for myself where in the beginning, I gave myself a little bit more leeway where every other day I was allowed to check their Instagram story. But on those days where I wasn't allowed to, I was not allowed to. And then as it went on, I had myself wait a little bit longer. This sounds so psycho, but it works so well.
It helps. I did that too in my
And,
last
yeah.
Baby
breakup.
steps.
And then it
Yeah.
got to like twice a week, I would allow myself to like look at their Instagram. And then once a week. And then as the intervals became longer, it would become, okay, now in 2 weeks, it's in my calendar. Like if you want to check, like you're allowed to. And as those intervals got longer, the need got
That
smaller
urge went
to
away.
the point where it would get to a calendar day and I'm like, oh, I'm allowed to, but I don't even care anymore. I don't even want to.
Or you
check it
forget
anymore.
and
Yeah,
you're
like, oh, I totally
oh
forgot.
wait, I could have checked.
So,
oh,
yeah,
well.
And
that
that's
is-
progress. That's
yeah,
the goal, to
that's,
not
like-
even think about it.
Exactly. Maybe that's just how my mind works, but that was something that helped me is like giving myself these places where non-judgmentally I can check and I'm not beating myself up for looking at it.
Giving yourself grace,
Yeah.
because they were, at one point, a very
Mhm.
important person in your life.
Yeah. So that was something that helped me. But do you guys think that no contact works for everyone or do you
Yes.
feel Yeah.
Yes, dang, she was
well,
strong.
I just think even if there's a possibility of friendship or a reconciliation, like if there's a possibility of having this person in your life in any capacity, you need to take time apart.
True.
There's a reason that relationship ended in whatever phase it was. And for both of you to understand what that reason was for and to have some personal growth, I think it's so necessary to step away, no contact, and really understand what it is that you want from this relationship going forward. If that's both what you decide in the 3 months, I think you can revisit that. But I just think there's no way to really understand yourself or what happened if you're like, okay, let's like a week, all right, take some space, and then you come back together and you're like, it just allows you to simmer down. It doesn't, the situation doesn't leave. So I think it's really important for no contact.
But what if you're living with an ex?
Then
How does that differ? I'm just curious.
That is, yeah, that's definitely difficult. From
how do you get that like separation? I'm just curious. I'm just looking at you.
Yeah, Rachel,
but
what did you do?
Like, what are some things that if someone is going through a breakup, but they're in a situation where they can't go no contact, what are some other ways that you can experience that?
So for me personally, I filled my schedule up so much.
I remember that time.
I filled my schedule up so much. Like literally, I was
never in the house.
I literally tried to be, not in the house as much as I could, keep myself busy, occupied, doing my own thing. And I feel like when a breakup does happen, what you have to figure out is finding a new routine for yourself. That's like the biggest thing, because it was you and your partner and your agenda, your schedule. And then at that breakup, you're like, what's my routine?
You've lost all self-identity.
Exactly. So you're figuring that out. And for me, being as social as I can, during my breakup is when I really connected with you guys. So finding yourself a counsel and, people that you could really talk to about all the emotions you're feeling and everything that's going on.
100%. And go ahead.
I was gonna ask, because of living with an ex, when do you think you were able to really finish or begin your mourning process? Because I know from living with an ex myself, it's when you stop seeing them completely, when you really move out your stuff or you go to a new place, that your body and your mind is almost mourning in a different way.
Yeah.
Even if you process the breakup, you are still seeing them. You still live in the same house. So when you leave, it's almost like mourning in a completely new way.
It's like mourning the death.
Yeah.
It's like you definitely feel like as soon as it's like no contact, you feel sadness. You feel sadness and you feel like that grief as if like it was a death.
Because you couldn't really start no contact rule
Yeah.
when you're living with an ex.
Yeah. When you're living, you definitely...
You can limit, but you can't
Yeah, it's like the beginning phases, and you do process the relationship, but once you actually move yourself, you start, feeling loneliness. Oh, like, they're not here anymore, and you just start adjusting to your new life. So once you are completely removed from the situation, then you could completely, like, heal, and that's where no contact
100%.
really kicks in.
And now, as the final kind of segment here, you just talked about finding that routine and rebuilding that confidence. How do we feel like we do best at... I should think about questions before they come out of my mouth. How do
we best figure life in yes.
Just how do you rebuild your confidence post breakup? What are some things that we can build into our schedule, and some things that helped us feel like ourselves again? Like, sometimes that's going on walks, doing workout classes.
I love solo dates. Yeah. I think
love that.
The activities that you enjoy, you don't stop enjoying, right? So if that's reading a book, if that's going to a movie, if that's enjoying great food, find your friends or yourself, because I love solo dates. That's why I love going to the movies by myself. But if you don't want to be alone, and obvious reasons why you wouldn't want to be, find friends and do those activities. Hey, I heard about this new restaurant I haven't been able to try for a year. You want to try? Do you want to get a cocktail? Do you want to get a coffee, a matcha? Or I think the things that you love, do them and share them with other people. Like, you know,
100%.
that's
Yeah.
always helpful in just remembering, oh my god, this used to make me so happy, I love doing this.
And big emphasis on friends.
Yes.
Like, not
Yes.
necessarily jumping on dates because you need time to get over it. You don't want a rebound
Yes.
situation.
Yeah.
I don't quite believe the best way to get over someone
Is to get
under
Is under?
someone.
Ah!
It doesn't hurt, but you know,
It helps,
you
but
might
it's not the
reflect-
solution.
You might reflect differently
Yeah.
later on. Like,
Yeah.
was that the best? Yeah.
But I think it's really important to find the balance between staying busy and doing these things that
and
fuel you,
reflecting.
Keeping
and
yourself
also
occupied.
reflecting, and also like sitting in your feelings.
feeling your feelings.
Mhm.
That was feel your feelings.
Mhm.
But journaling, and you know, there was one breakup, my first love, I would say, and it was only 6 months, and so it wasn't a long lasting relationship. But I remember the night it happened, I was with my parents because I could tell it was going to happen. I think they could tell. So we're all together. They made me so happy. We went out, we got coffee, we went thrifting. My parents, even, they
Aw.
did things that they knew I loved. And so we did that. And then that night, I got a call. He broke up with me, and like, you know, I knew it was coming, but it hurt. And
Yeah.
the next day we went on a hike, my parents and I got home and I wrote a story, and it was almost like an homage to my parents' love, and I read it to them and I started crying, and I was
Aw.
just thinking, I'm like, you know, this hurt, but you know, when my dad said even when he doesn't like my mom, he still loves her, and that's a love
Aw.
that I want. And it
That's
was
cute.
that in itself was healing, like to write a story
Mhm.
and know that I was feeling sad and letting other people know I was sad, but that I knew there was better times to come. That
That's
was
so
really
awesome.
helpful for me, and
Uh-huh.
just writing.
Releasing, letting it out, talking to people,
Yeah.
therapy.
I love that.
So I have go.
Oh, I was gonna say, in regards to myself, after a breakup, rebuilding myself. I've said this once and I'll say it again. Affirmations, you know, whether you're being broken up with or you're doing the breakup, you know, if you're doing the breakup, maybe you lost yourself in that relationship and your value, your worth, and how you feel about yourself is really low. And just speaking so kindly, the kindest, it's like,
What are some of those affirmations, Rachel?
just like, you know, I'm gonna have a great day, you're beautiful, like you are so smart, and like you have worked so hard, and everything that you want is going to come, you know, with you. I used to be the worst at negative self-talk, and then I just realized it literally entered my mind like
A light
lightning.
bulb.
Yeah, like a light bulb.
Like a lightning.
And it was, I just had the thought of like me talking so bad to myself, and I was like, I would never talk to my best friend like this. Why am I talking to myself like that? And that realization literally switched my mindset, and every single day I was talking so nice, so kind to myself. And then, like I said in our last podcast, there was a moment when I was like, you know what? I haven't thought bad about myself in the longest time. And that was such a big win for me.
That's amazing.
So self-affirmations.
I love that. That's
So
huge.
writing self-affirmation,
Yeah.
Cosette, what do you do to start that journey into self-confidence again?
Oh, I wasn't expecting the question to be.
Yeah, I know you weren't.
Back at you.
I wasn't even thinking about this. I was just, I was thinking about a poster that I have in my wall in my bedroom that is full of self-affirmations that
Oh,
I don't
love
say
that.
enough to myself. But, gosh. I think just spending time with friends, these self-affirmation, journaling a ton, like whenever I have these new feelings. I also go to therapy. I feel like that's huge for me.
That's good.
Whenever I have these feelings come up, I just need to get it out. I need to talk. I'm such a yapper when it comes to my counsel, girls.
no,
Like,
I love it.
we
I
love
like,
it, yeah.
There's
Any
9,
feels
11
us.
p.m.
Yeah.
She's like, I just had a thought. And
I will
I'm
open
like,
it. We have a Snapchat
sorry.
group, and I'll open the Snapchat group and be like, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now, and I need to
Okay, one more
analyze
thing.
it. Yeah. And one more thing, and actually, and I'm Lexi, you haven't responded yet, and I'm waiting. And
Yeah.
Rachel,
So
I thought
I-
that you were gonna
I'd
respond, but
really
you just
like
sent a
that.
video of your view, and like I need help right now. So
That is so
just yeah,
true.
for
I
me,
know I
it's
already
just,
talked about this, but I want to talk about it again.
Yeah, and I'm not done talking about that one interaction that I had.
Remember 6 months ago that one?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about it now, and I'm actually
mayor
okay.
of Yaptown, mayor of Yaptown.
Oh, I
Anyway,
love
I
it.
feel like this was a really helpful conversation on getting through a breakup. I think we all kind of dropped little nuggets of wisdom, and I think we deal with it in similar ways, but also have our own approach. So it's really helpful to hear your girls.
But our message is no contact, so you can really work on your self-confidence, rebuilding again, your worth and what you enjoy, and being with friends, reconnecting with friends. Because usually in a relationship, there are people that you've lost contact with. Reconnect with the people that really have supported you in your life, and just remind yourself that you're going to do great things.
And this is for guys and girls, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that concludes our first episode in the studio.
Woo! Yay!
We are signing off. It's your girl, Cosette.
Lexi.
And Rachel.
Bye.
Bye.